This video is just to make a correction to the mistake I made in the lecture on Thursday. And if you remember, on Thursday I started off with this molecule in the Fischer projection. And remember that in the Fischer projection, the horizontal axis has groups that are pointing toward you, and in the vertical axis you have groups that are pointing away from you. And I converted this Fischer projection into a perspective formula, and the best way to do this is to imagine these two groups that are pointing toward you in this plane here. So the groups that are pointing toward you are sort of arms that are coming out to hug you in this direction. And if you do that, then the methyl group and the hydrogen would be in the plane of the paper. So what I'm actually trying to do is take this chlorine atom and then turn it to face me. The NH2 would now be behind the plane. So chlorine toward me, that's what you see here. NH2 would be behind the plane because I'm rotating it around the horizontal axis, and then such that the methyl group and hydrogen now gets into the plane of the paper. So I can convert this into a perspective formula. And then I try to name this perspective formula, but I realized that the lowest priority group is not pointing away from me, so I decide to swap these two groups around. And that's what I do here. The hydrogen is swapped and the NH2 is swapped for that. So you can see now that the NH2 is in the plane of the paper and the hydrogen is pointing away from me. And once I have the hydrogen pointing away from me, which is the lowest priority group, I then go from the highest priority group to the second highest priority to the third highest priority, and in doing so I go in an anti-clockwise direction, and the anti-clockwise direction would mean that I have the S isomer. Now since I swap two groups around, this is the isomer of this. So the opposite of the S isomer would now be the R isomer, which means that this Fischer projection is the R isomer. And if you look at the highest priority to the second highest priority to the third highest priority, if I go from 1 to 2 to 3, I would go in a clockwise direction, which would give me the R isomer. Now this can only be done if the hydrogen is pointing in the vertical axis, which means the lowest priority group is in the vertical axis. As soon as I swap two groups around, so let me swap hydrogen and chlorine around, and I do that here, I swap hydrogen and chlorine around, you would see that now if I go from 1 to 2 to 3 in a clockwise direction, I end up with the S isomer. And I know that this is a S isomer because I swapped two groups around from the R isomer, so this must be the other isomer, which is S. Which leads us to the conclusion that if we have the lowest priority group on the vertical axis, we can then use the conventional going from 1 to 2 to 3, giving us the R isomer. However, if the lowest priority group is on the horizontal axis, going from 1 to 2 to 3 in a clockwise direction would lead to an S isomer. So that's how you can actually name compounds in either the perspective formula or the Fischer projections.